Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome along to this week's brand new topic, which is emailing invoices. So we're going to spend around about 45 minutes looking at that this afternoon. If you did get a chance to attend our customer statements webinar, which is all about emailing as well last week, then the content is going to be very, very similar. So once you've learned about these options, again, you'll be able to apply them to other documents within the software if you want to email them out. So I'm Michael, I'm going to be your host in today's session. And I'm joined today by Abby, Jackie and Tina, who will be on hand in the background answering any questions that you might have. So they'll either provide an answer, maybe send you a link across to one of our Help Center articles, which has much more detailed steps in, or maybe if it's a very specific query, they'll point you in the direction of getting in touch with our support team. So do bear with us a little bit, because we've got a very busy session this afternoon. We've already got over 200 of you logged in today. So questions panel will probably be quite busy today. Right, a little bit of housekeeping just before we do get started though. So you don't need a microphone for these sessions. So if it's your first time attending our sessions, whether you might not be aware of that, you don't need one. If you've got one and you enable it, you'll just find it's muted automatically, so nothing to worry about there. That does mean you can't verbally speak to us, but you will be able to submit any questions or comments via the questions panel. You should see that in the bottom right hand corner. If you can't currently see it, just click that little icon, the one that looks like the speech bubble containing the question mark. It's on your toolbar down the right. You'll then have that box, and that's your way of communicating with us today. So any comments or questions, pop them in there, click send, and we'll try and get an answer back to you. There's also an opportunity to download a copy of today's slides. So some of the slides will have links on, just making it just a little bit easier to find the help information that I'm going to refer to here and there as well. So if you do get a chance, that's how you would download that. You'll also receive a follow-up email later this afternoon, and that will include a number of links to Sage City, where we host all of the common questions and answers that you ask during the sessions. So no need to make notes. We do make those available afterwards. The handouts will be available via that link, and also you'll be able to watch a recording via that link as well. So you'll get that email round about an hour after we finish today. If you want to attend other webinars or watch recordings of previous ones, links will be included on your follow-up email as well. So do watch out for that one. Right, okay, let's have a look at what we're going to be covering. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background to emailing your invoices from Sage 50. We'll then run a couple of polls as well, just to sort of get a little bit of background on you, sort of what people are using email-wise, and then we're going to run through a series of demonstrations so you can see what we're going to cover. So I'll be sharing my desktop at that point, and we'll be running through pretty much just a big demonstration in that area. Just at the end, we'll explain more about the additional support, and there's loads available for email, whether you're working with Outlook or a webmail program. But today we're going to be concentrating on integration with Outlook. So we'll get started. As I say, keep your questions coming. So emailing invoices, obviously Sage 50, it does make it very easy to email your documents, and we'll have a look at that today. Obviously, we're going to be running through various demonstrations, and that just means that sending out invoices, orders, remittances, or completing your statement run, it should be a quick and simple task for you if you're sending them via email. You can send your invoices individually, or it might be that you're in the habit of sending them out in bulk, so you might let them build up and then email them out at the end of the week. It used to be a lot more common sending them out in bulk when people were printing, so they'd have specific stationery that they'd load into their printer rather than just putting one sheet in and printing it out and then waiting for the next one. But with email, you tend to find people just send them straight away. Now, there are a number of layouts contained within Sage 50, which contain default settings to work with Microsoft Outlook. Now, it doesn't mean that that's all you can use. Yes, there's a couple of default layouts that contain those settings. We'll have a look at how it works. But you can configure your layouts individually, or even in bulk as well, via the email defaults option. So we're going to be having a look at the email defaults option, see what's included. We do have advanced sessions booked in as well for both statements and invoices, looking more from within the report designer side of the layout. And there's a few different email options in there that you might be interested in as well. So if you haven't signed up for the advanced sessions, again, watch out for that one on your follow-up email. So as I mentioned, layouts can be configured to work with webmail. I'm not covering that in today's session. If you do need advice on that, because I got a few comments last week just saying I've now got to wait 2 weeks to attend the advanced one to find out more about the SMTP settings. You don't have to. There's some great information available within our help center if you need that, if you can't wait for that session. So as I say, we'll be covering things like that in the advanced email webinars. So get yourself signed up if you haven't already. But we're going to cover the very basics today. Now, just before I do that, I'm going to run a couple of polls with you, and I'll get you to choose an answer for these as well. So we'll set the first one going. So quick question, and I'll launch this one. I think that's it done. Yeah. So quick question for you. How do you currently generate your invoices? Do you email them? Do you print them? Do you use a combination of email and print, or maybe do you use some other option? Maybe you host them online. So I'll just wait till we get a decent percentage you having voted on that poll, and then I'll share the results with you as well. Right, okay, I'll just close that poll now. So there's about 67% or so of you have voted there. Let me share the results so you can see that. So you can see a decent percentage of you, so about 34% is showing at my end there. 34% of you email only, 19% of you print only, about half of you are using a combination of the two, and 1% maybe going down some other route. So hopefully we'll try and push those percentages to maybe or reducing the number that are printing only to maybe getting you to experiment with email a little bit. And all you really need is an email address from your customer and pop it into their record, and then really that's it, off you go. Right, second poll I'm going to quickly run there is a quick question. Do you use Microsoft Outlook for your email? So again, I'll try and get a decent percentage of you voting on this one. I'm expecting we'll probably get similar results to what we got last week when we were running the emailing statement session. Excellent. Right, I'll just close that one and I'll share the results with you as well. So we've had about just over 80% of you vote on that one. So just nearly getting on for nearly 90% having or currently using Outlook. And that's why we're going to concentrate on Outlook today. But as I mentioned, what you learn today in the session, you will be able to apply if you're using webmail as well. You just need to maybe configure your layout a little bit different. Right, okay, let's get rid of that and we're going to crack on. So back to the slides for a moment. These are the demonstrations that we're going to quickly run through. So as the majority are using Microsoft Outlook, we're going to quick mention of maybe a step that you haven't really thought about or not really noticed. So if anyone's integrating with Outlook and you're having a few problems, make sure you complete this step. So setting Microsoft Outlook as the default email provider in Windows. We're then going to look at the basics of emailing an individual invoice, emailing multiple invoices, applying email settings to a layout, and also the send immediately option as well. And there's a few, obviously hopefully we'll cover some other bits and bobs along the way as well. Right, now, first of all, setting Microsoft Outlook as your default email provider. Now, I've included a link to one of our Help Center articles to help you do this. It's nice and easy to do that. I'll quickly demonstrate this to you now as well, just show you how you can quickly do that. So if you only need to do this as well if you are using Outlook. Right, let's head across to my screen, my desktop, and we'll run through a quick demo of just those steps. Right, should see my desktop. Just drag my Windows bar, status bar across for a moment as well. There's a few different ways you can access this option as well. And probably the easiest if you're on Windows, which you should be, is just to click Start and then into Settings. And then if you go into Apps, and then you have an option called Default Apps on the left. And it's this very top option here, Email. It might just say something else at the moment. It may just say Mail. But if you've got Outlook installed locally on your desktop, then make sure you choose that. That's all you need to do for that one. Let's just get rid of the Windows status bar. Again, these steps are included in the Help Center article. So if you need the link for that one, just download the handout and that link should work for you on a copy of that slide. So let's start with the basics then, emailing an actual invoice. So I'm in Invoices and Credits. I've got an invoice entered. I can obviously email it directly from within the invoice itself. So when I'm in the invoice, if I just choose the print option at the top, I could then, let me get rid of that message. I could then get into printing it and highlighting my layout and sending it out, output it to email. So it would be nice and easy that way as well. We're just going to do it from the main list today. We will pick up on the email option a little bit later on as well, just to once we've covered the basics of sending them out. So anyway, we've got an invoice selected. As you can see in the email or print column as well, we've got, it'll mention email or print. This setting, it relates to within the customer record. So you can see I've got A1 Design Services selected here. So if I go into Customers, select that customer, pop into the record, you can see at the bottom here, I've got a little tick box. It's really there for reference purposes to say I send letters, statements, etc. to this customer via email. And if you haven't started emailing yet, obviously it would just be a case of popping the email address normally into the first or email one in this instance. You can rename those titles as well. So you've entered your email address and basically at that point, really, you should be good to go. Let's go back to Invoices and Credits. And the reason I wanted to mention that email or print option is if you do send them out in bulk, what you can actually do is filter based on that setting. So it's pulling the setting through from the customer's record across to this screen. So what it means is if I go into the filter option, I can actually set up a filter that says where send invoices or credits via email is equal to yes. And if I then just apply that, any customers that weren't flagged to be sent their invoices via email will just be hidden from that invoices list. So if you're printing them out, for instance, you don't want to be printing out invoices. So for those of you that are using print only or maybe a combination of them, you don't want to be printing out invoices that you're sending out via email. So you could switch that filter as well. You could say where send invoices or credits via email is not equal to yes, or you could say is equal to no from the drop down. So there's a couple of ways of cracking the same nut for that one. So now what I've got left with now is just the ones that are flagged for printing only. So we're just going to knock that filter off just so it goes back to the default list. I'll go right down to the bottom. And we'll select that one. What we're going to do is I'm going to select it. I'm going to go into print at the top. Now, initially, when you go into print, it will default to the favorites folder. Now, and by default, obviously, you wouldn't have flagged a layout as your favorite. If you've not come across that little feature yet, nice, simple one, just pop into layouts, find the layout that you use, and then it would just be a case of clicking on the star. And all that means is it just lists it within the favorites area. So there it is there. If you've got one there that shouldn't be there, you no longer want it listed, click on the star, it'll just remove it from the favorites list. But these are the two that I'm going to be using today for the purpose of the demo. So the A4 invoice credit without discount, it's a plain paper, it's designed for printing or emailing. So this is a one that does contain Outlook settings. So I'll highlight that layout and we'll choose email. So from the floating toolbar, the very last option, or You could click email on the toolbar at the top. Obviously, they both do the same thing. We'll just click it, and it tells me the report is successfully output to email. So just OK that. Now, as far as Sage is concerned, that's it done. So we then have a, excuse me, if I then switch across to my Outlook, just get rid of some messages that I've got popped up as well. What it will do by default is it will output that email, and it will store a copy of that email in the drafts folder. So I'll go into my drafts folder, and this is it here. So it doesn't set, but if you're integrating with Outlook, it doesn't by default send it automatically. We'll be picking up on that a little bit later on. So this is a good opportunity when you first start emailing to almost like build up your confidence a little bit. So it means that you can have a look at the email that was generated before actually sending it. So it's picked up the email address from the customer's record. It's picked up a subject line. So it's got my company name, demo email, and it says invoice number. Let's pull the invoice number through for me. It's got the email attached as a PDF document, and then it's got some details on the main body of the invoice as well. Sorry, the email. Now it means at this stage I could make whatever changes I want at that point to the email. If I want to type in some additional information, maybe I want to pop in my signature to the end, for instance, I can do that. So I can make whatever changes I want. And then when I'm ready, all I do is I click send. And that's now in my outbox and will then pop into my sent items. So that's the sort of the workings of the defaults. So using that default layout and working with Outlook. Right, let's pop back into Sage. What I want to do is quickly run through and show you what it looks like if you want to send out multiple invoices. Let's make sure I select the right option there. Right, okay, so we're back to the invoices list. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to select 2 invoices for the same customer. I'm going to select that one there, and actually we'll just do it like that. Just do those ones. Actually, we'll select another one, Fred Bryant. So I've got 4 separate emails or 4 separate invoices selected on the list, but it's only covering 3 customers. So we'll see what that looks like. So I'm going to go back to print, and I'll choose exactly the same layout, and we'll output that one to email. It tells me it has been successfully output to email. And in the drafts folder, you'll see this time it's generated 3 emails. So there were 4 invoices selected, but it's generated 3 emails. Now that first account, this one here, you can see it's grouped it. So any invoices for the same customers, it's going to attach them as a separate attachment. So in this case, I've got 2 PDF documents, one for each invoice, but it's only generated 1 email. Obviously the others, if I just go into it, there was only 1 invoice for that specific customer for the accounts I've actually selected. I can see loads of questions coming through as well, so do bear with us. We will be covering a lot of the email settings and how you can configure that. So if you just think, can you do this, can you do that? Please just bear with us with those types of questions. And we will be covering probably what we'll be covering will answer the majority of those queries that you've got. Anyway, for these ones, again, all I would need to do for that default sort of process, I would just go into the various drafts, and if I'm happy with that, if I want to make any amends, obviously I can, and then I can click send, and that would be it done. And it would just be a case of repeating that. So it's output to email. Then if you're working with Outlook, you're into the drafts folder, open the email, and then click send once you've made any amends if required. Right, I'll just delete those 2 just to get them out of my drafts folder. and then we'll go back to Sage again. Right, what we're now going to look at is actually applying email settings. Now, if we select this layout here, actually we'll get back to the invoice list first of all. So I'm just going to select this one at the bottom again. We'll go back to print. And I'm going to select this layout this time. Now, this one doesn't have any default email settings attached to it. And this is what you'll probably find for the majority of the layouts. And if you've designed your own, probably something that you'll have come across as well. So we're going to highlight this layout. I'll output this one to email. And we'll get a message. No email settings were detected. Would you like to apply email settings? Now, if I click yes, it's going to take me into the email default and I can start amending settings. And we're going to come on to that one in a sec. If I choose no, then what it will do, it will give me this message instead. It will give me missing email settings. And what it's telling me is that the email settings for this report are not configured. Do you want to send the entire report as an attachment? Now, this is what chances what you'd get if you were trying to email the likes of a trial balance or a profit and loss, for instance. So a standard report from within the software. Now, what that would mean is if I'd selected multiple invoices and I was to choose yes to this prompt, it would combine them all together. So I would have them attached as one PDF document and I would fill in the email settings. By default, when you're working with Outlook, assuming you've got your settings configured properly, it'll split them all. So if you do print them in a batch, as you saw, it split my invoices into separate emails. So it's splitting them. It's not sending invoices or every invoice to every single customer. It's splitting that and generating individual invoices for them. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click no to this one, just so I can close out of it. Let's get back to Sage again. We'll close out of our layouts. And what we're going to do is we're going to configure this one. The second one. And I'm going to do it just by going back to my main screen. And I'm going to go into settings and then down to email defaults. So that's the easiest way to get in. You can configure email settings as well by going into your layout and amending that within the report designer. But that's something that we are going to cover in the advanced session. So we're just going to, again, cover the very basics in today's. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply or show you what changes you can make and apply to a specific layout. Now, the tabs that you've got at the top, some of you may not have all of these tabs. So for instance, sales order and purchase order, for instance, you're not going to get those unless you're on the professional level of the software. But we just want to look at invoice. Now, you'll see the first tab is email client, and we get two options on here. We can choose Microsoft Outlook, which it'll default to, but we can also choose the webmail option. Now, if you choose webmail, there's some default email providers, so it'll have some preset options, and then it's just a case of filling in any other information that it prompts you to. More information about using webmail and SMTP settings you'll find within our help center. For now, we're just going to use Microsoft Outlook. We'll leave it set to that. We'll go into the invoice tab, and you can see all the changes or all of the settings that we've got available. And you'll see if we flick through the tabs that pretty much the options are pretty much the same for all of the other sort of layout areas that you can have as well. But for invoices, let's just have a look at the settings that you've got. So first of all, we've got the to field. So in this case, we want it to pull through the email address from the customer record that's in email 1. If I wanted to change that, then I could go into it and choose one of the other options. I could even manually enter an address if I needed to. But I'm going to leave it set to email address 1. We can CC as well. So we might say, right, actually we want to copy in email address number 2 as well. Or we might even want to put something like our own email address in. I think it was Viv had emailed me literally 10 minutes before we started, can I enter a CC address? So yes, this is where you'd enter that. So all we do is, if we wanted to do that, it'd just be a case of choosing the manually to enter one and pop that in. Now that might mean that, so when we send out an email, it also copies ourselves in. So it's not just storing in our sent items. We might have a certain mailbox that we want a copy of the invoice to be emailed to. So we can add that in as well if we needed to. So again, it's done automatically, so that you're not having to amend the email there and then. Right, I'm just going to leave that CC address set to none. We've got a subject line. Now for the subject lines, there are some sort of preset for you. So I can have invoice number from whatever your company name is, invoice from demo. So there's a few different ones, or even just manually, you can manually enter that if you want to. So I'll just cancel out of that one. I'll leave it as is. We've got attachment settings. So do we want to send the email as an attachment, or do we want to just pop the details of that invoice into the body of the email itself? Normally what you'd expect is that the invoice would be as an attachment. Looks better as well if whoever receives it, if they want to print it out or even just view it. By default, it'll be flagged as a PDF document. Again, probably what you'd expect. The attachment file name, some default options for you. If you all wanted to set it to something other than that, that can be configured within the report designer itself. Again, we're covering that one in the advanced session. So I'll just leave it set. I'll just leave as invoice number. And then finally, do we want a PDF password attached to it as well? So when a customer tries to, whoever receives that email, if they try to open that PDF document, do we want them to be prompted to enter an email password? Now that PDF password is on a customer by customer basis. So if you go into a customer record, on the defaults tab, you'll actually see there's a reporting password in there. So if you want that to be applied to the PDF document, then just be a case of applying that. Final two options are to do with Outlook itself. So do we want to override the default Outlook signature? And if so, which signature do you want to use? And also the sending options. And we're going to come back to the sending options in a few minutes' time. So with this very last setting. Now, if you make any changes, what you then need to do is to apply it to the relevant layouts. So I'm going to click apply. It gives you the layout folders for your particular level of the software. So I could just select all invoice layouts, but I'm not going to, because that means it's just going to take that extra length of time. What I'm going to do instead is find the one I'm after. Now, I think it's this one here. So I'll tick it. I'll just select that one. Actually, I'll do that one as well, just in case. There's a few of them on here. I'll just select the ones that are flagged for print or email. I can't remember the exact one I'm using now. So I'm just going to select those, click OK. It'll update those layouts with me with the settings I've selected. And that would be it done. So nice and easy to, let's find Sage again, flicking between screens here. So once it's finished, you return back to that email defaults window. We just click OK, and that's the changes made. Right, what we'll next do though is we're going to have a look at the send immediately option. So by default, obviously when we've output those emails earlier, those invoices, it saved it as a draft. And what I want to do, just let's say I've gained a little bit of confidence that it's working the way I'm expecting it to. And when I output to email, I just think, I just want you to send it automatically for me. I don't want to go into the drafts and view the email and make any amends. I just want you to output it straight to email and send it. So again, what we'll do is we're going to go back to the settings area, email defaults, still got it flagged as Microsoft Outlook, into invoice, and I'm just going to change this setting to send immediately. That's all I'm going to change this time around. I'm going to click apply, find my invoice layout. So I'm going to we'll use that one again. Very first one that says print or email. I'll just OK that. It'll apply that setting, and that should be done for me. So we'll just OK that. And what we'll do is we'll output an email, output an invoice so you can see the difference this time. So we'll go into print. I'm just going to go into layouts to make sure I've got the right one selected. So it was that one there. Just select it, and we'll output that direct to email. Tells me it's successfully output to email. And if we switch back to my email, you can see there's nothing in the drafts folder this time. And if I go straight into sent, there it is there. Obviously, I've knocked the subject line off, haven't I? Right, you can see how easy it is to make changes. Just go back in, I can apply a subject line to that email now as well, if I needed to. But that means it's sending it automatically. And that would also mean if I output a batch of invoices as well. So let me quickly demonstrate that one to you as well. So if we just close out of the layouts, we'll select, I'll do 3 different ones. Again, we'll just go to print, into the layouts area, choose the same layout, output to email. It tells me it's successfully output to email. Again, you can see them. There's nothing in drafts, but in sent items, it's got the 3 in there. So again, it's splitting it up. Even though I'm sending them out in bulk, it's splitting them up. Each individual invoice will be attached to an individual email, and off it goes. So it just sends it automatically. Now, the final thing I wanted to cover with you today, just to make that process even quicker, if we go back to Sage again, is this option here, this email option at the top. Now, when you click this option, or when you first click it, I'll just do it with the one invoice. When I first click that, it gives me a message saying a default email layout has not yet been set up. Do you wish to do this now? Now, if I click yes, it'll give me a list of the layouts. And all I would need to do is find the one that I want to use the same one. So we'll just select it on the list, click OK, and that's it done. Now, what that means is, let's get back to Sage one more time. What it means is when I select my invoice, if I go straight, just click email, it just does it automatically. So it accepts all of the default settings that I've got specified in the background. So it tells me the report has been successfully output to email, click OK. As far as Sage is concerned, that's it done. So again, it can speed up the process. Now, if you're using that option, so maybe it's using your wrong layout, what you can do, maybe you've chosen one previously, what you can do to change that, just a case of going into settings, and then invoice and order defaults. And then on the email tab, you've got an option here, invoices. Just a case of clicking browse and then browsing to choose which layout you want to use instead. So if you design your own and you find it's not using that for some reason, that's how you can switch it across. Similar for the print option as well. So the quick print that's on that list, if you're still printing them, you can specify a default layout. Again, just means it's that bit quicker. Right, let's pop back to the slide. So it brings us to the end of what we were planning on demonstrating for you today. So we'll pop back to the slides. Now, do remember we've got the advanced session. We've got one for statements, which is next week, and obviously the advanced session for invoices will be the week after. If you can't hang around and you don't want to wait for that one, So maybe you want to grab the bull by the horns and get started with emailing or start to update your settings. Remember, there's loads of information in our help center, but as you've seen, really easy to email out your invoices. And of course, you can send them individually, send them in bulk. A number of the layouts, the ones that are generally flagged for plain paper or print or email, it'll say that in brackets as part of the description. They're the ones that will be configured to work with Outlook by default, so you shouldn't need to make any changes. Help Center wise, remember there's loads of information about your software in general, but if you are using webmail, if you've downloaded the handouts, that link will work for you as well. And to access that option we looked at today, it was just settings and then email defaults. Now, I just want to quickly mention a little bit about Sage Membership, just for those of you that may not have come across that yet. Sage Membership, it's not just about your software and having Sage 50 accounts or Sage 50 payroll or both or other Sage software. There's loads of benefits to being a Sage member. So it's a free service. And it means that you then, as a Sage member, you have access to things like member masterclasses, which are the videos that you'll see us promote on social media and available from our website as well. These are videos from business experts, they're not talking about your Sage software. They're just talking about offering business advice, whether that's on productivity, looking after your employees. So loads of these videos available. So do take advantage of that one. You've got free e-learning as well via Sage University, community forums that you can access via Sage City. Obviously, you will already have access to our support team. There's business advice, and of course, software certification as well. If you want to take advantage of, again, if you've downloaded the handouts, the links on these various pages or these slides will work for you. Upcoming webinars, we've got loads in store. We're just about to start planning the March sessions. So if anyone's got any requests that they'd like to see us cover in March, do let us know. There'll be a little survey pop up as you leave. You can pop it on there. But loads of sessions planned in for what's new in version 29, which we're in the process of starting to roll out at the moment. We're going to be covering year end, and next week is bank reconciliation. So next week, I think it is. And then week after will be bank feeds. Obviously, for the emailing documents sessions that we've been running at the moment, the recording for emailing statements is available already. Emailing your invoices, the recording of today's session will be available later on today, and the link will be included on your follow-up email. And we've got the dates there for the 2 advanced sessions as well, if you're interested in coming along to those. If you can't make it, don't worry, we'll make the recordings available afterwards as well. But they're all free to attend. Right, okay, we're going to hang around and try and pick up some additional questions. If you've got any questions, if you want to quickly pop them in, I could see you have kept the team really busy this afternoon. So apologies if we haven't had a chance to answer your questions specifically, but we try to answer as many as we can. So I want to quickly thank you for coming along this afternoon. I hope you've enjoyed it and it's given you a little bit of an insight into emailing out your documents. Specifically, for those of you that are maybe printing only and you were thinking about, oh, should I be emailing, should I not? It can save you a lot of time, and obviously everyone's talking about the cost of living crisis at the moment as well. So with email, you don't have things like, you don't have the associated costs of postage, the time it takes, the stationery, the printing costs, and obviously things being potentially lost in the post as well. You just output it to email. As far as you're concerned, that's it done. Now that survey will pop up as you leave today. So it should take you about a minute maximum to complete that. If you've got any thoughts, ideas, anything you'd like to share with us at all, you've got your opportunity to put your feedback on that survey. We love reading your comments, so anything and everything, pop it on there. Your follow-up email that I mentioned will be with you in round about an hour's time, so watch out for that. And please get yourself signed up for some of the future webinars that we've got planned in as well. And again, if you can't make it, just watch out for the recordings being added later on that day that the webinars run. Right, let's see what questions we've got. Quick question from Karen. I'll pick up Karen's question. Karen's just asking, where do you set up your company address, etc.? I'm assuming you mean your own company address in that instance, Karen. If that's the case, you would do that within settings and then company preferences on your list. It'll just ask you to confirm your password, but then you'll be in and you can set it within here. Tracy, you were just mentioning about the links. Yes, you will receive a follow-up email. The follow-up email will have a number of links. One will be to our Sage City post. So via the Sage City post, you'll be able to watch a recording of today's session. You'll have access to the handouts, and hopefully we'll have time to publish some of the common questions and answers to that by the time you get that email. But that will all be made available to you. Links to the recordings and obviously the webinar registration page you can easily access. Will be provided from that as well. The other way you can actually access webinars as well, incidentally, is just within your software. On your toolbar on the left there, you've got an option called Home. So it's right at the top. And then you've got this little panel. Now your panels may look a little bit different. They may show a lot smaller on your screen, but you'll still have this free webinars panel if you give it a click. It'll take you across to our Help Center article, and this is where you can see what sessions we've got available to book onto. So actually bank reconciliation is actually tomorrow at 2 p.m. So if you're interested in signing up for that one, just again, access that, click register now. To access recordings, again, just use the same link. You've got your view previous recordings option at the top there, and it'll just take you across so you can see the recordings that we've got available. Just click to watch as well. We've just changed that. So if you've accessed recordings in the past, you now don't need to enter your details. You just click it. It'll bring up a YouTube recording and you'll be able to watch it from there. Suzanne, you were just asking there, how do you set up logos, etc. on an invoice layout? That's something that we've covered previously. So again, if you have a look at the recordings page, there should be a series of report design sessions. So these are the ones to look for on the report design side, and see if I can find one on the list. There are this one here. This is the one you want, Suzanne. Report design, personalize your invoice layout part 1. So Tina runs through that one and explains how to add your logo, how to add text objects, etc. onto your invoice layout. So it'll get you dabbling with the report designer, which is a very powerful option within Sage. Hope that makes sense. Quick question from Sandra as well. Well, I'll use this as the last question for today's session. Sandra's just asking about selecting invoices on the list. Quite a common question, this one, Sandra. So when I'm selecting records, we get this for all sorts of areas, whether it's bank reconciliations common, how can I select multiple transactions? But when I'm in here, if I highlight that account and I go to maybe the bottom one as an example, and I click it, it highlights it. Now there's 2 selection styles that you can actually use within Sage accounts. And what I've got is I've got the Sage selection style selected. And what that means is as I click something, it highlights it. If I click it again, it takes the highlight off. So it means you've got sort of like an on-off selection style. If you're finding that when you highlight an account and you go to click another one and it moves the highlight, then what that means is that you've got the Windows selection style selected. Now this is an option within Sage itself, and to find this option, you go into Tools, Options, and then on your Environment tab, so Tools, Options, and then Environment, you've got your selection style option here. Yours will be set to this one, Sandra. Now what that means, if I just OK that and go back to Invoices, it means if I highlight a record and then go down and maybe click that one, you'll see the highlight follows me round. If you want to leave it set that way and you want to select multiple records, then what I can do is just hold down the control key. And as I hold down the control key, it means that I can make my selection. Other thing you can do as well is to highlight in a batch. So highlight the first one, and then let's say I want to highlight everything from that one down to this one. This time I hold down the shift key, and then I click. It highlights everything in between. But if you want to change that setting, I'm not sure if it's because I've just used Sage for so long that I prefer the on-off method, is that if I just go back to Tools, Options, into the Environment tab, and then I just switch it back to the Sage selection style. Personally, I just find that easy to use, but you can toggle between them and have a little go of them if needed. So I just OK that, and I'm back to where I was. Hope that helps, Sandra. Right, I can see that there are some very, very specific questions. So if you've got a specific question to your situation, if you're specifically getting a warning message or it's just not working, get in touch with our support team. They'll have a quick look at that with you. There's obviously information available on our help center as well. But we'll wrap up the webinar just at that point. So once again, many thanks for coming along. I hope you've enjoyed it and you found it useful. And even those that were already emailing all of your documents, hopefully it's either giving you a little bit of reassurance, or maybe it's giving you picked up a few tips along the way. Remember that generally with your things like your customer statements, remittances, orders, invoices, credits, these settings that you've looked at today can be applied to them all. So once again, many thanks for coming along. Take care, stay safe, and hopefully we'll see you on some future sessions. Many thanks.